What did we just see? Well, the game was last night. Chris Graham here on YouTube and Augusta Free Press with some observations about last night's Virginia loss to Miami. Now, I'll go through six of them, and then we'll talk a little bit about Tony Bennett and his thoughts as well, which are more important than mine, no doubt. First observation from last night's game: Miami made Virginia go small. I'll put small in quotes um, because for the rest of us, 6'7" tall. But Miami plays, quote, small. Coach Jim Larinaga gave 90% of his minutes to people who under 6'7" or under, I should say, with his emphasis being to try to use quickness to counter Virginia's size advantage. Virginia, Caden Shedrick starts at center. He's 6'11". He's got Francisco Cafaro, we now call him, instead of Cafaro. He went 5 years, almost 5 years, and had us mispronouncing his name. That's just silly, but he's Cafaro now. It has been all along. We just got it wrong. He's 6'11". He's a bench guy. And Tony stayed conventional in the first half. He went with his normal lineup against the small lineup. Shedrick went 10 minutes. Cafaro went 5. I'll have to get used to that. Neither did much. The speed actually neutralized the size. As funny as that can be. And that's actually something that this isn't just in this game. This is, for those who are wondering, why don't you just feed the post and use your big height? NBA teams could learn that too, right? I mean, it's, what you do is you double the ball and make them spin it out, and you chase them around and you make them shoot a jump shot. It doesn't do you a lot of good to have size in there if that's what is going to happen, and that's what's going to happen. Virginia does it defensively too against bigs. That's the way you play it. And Miami played it well. Shedrick and Cafaro had a total of 2 rebounds in the first half. They had 1 block shot between them. They did score 6 points on 2 of 3 shooting, and Cafaro got to the foul line, made both his free throws, but largely it didn't work, and Virginia was down 10 at halftime. Miami out-rebounded the bigger Virginia team, 20-14, had 5 blocked shots. It just wasn't working. So after Bennett played, he started Shedrick in the second half, played him a minute and 4 seconds. After Shedrick had a very sloppy turnover, he brought Cafaro in for 2:26. And he got a couple silly fouls. The second one was on a moving screen that was a very obvious moving screen. Bennett went to Ryan Dunn, and thereafter, neither Shedrick nor Cafaro got back in the game. And Virginia was down 15 when Bennett went small. Dunn is 6'8", so he's not small. But Virginia got back in the game with that, quote, small lineup. So, second observation, Dunn answers the call. Now, you look at his counting stats, and he didn't do anything. Almost literally 0 for 2 from the floor, no points, 2 rebounds. I apologize for the still coughing. So 2 rebounds, a steal, 2 turnovers. But the plus minus was interesting, a plus 13. And that's plus 13 in a game that Virginia lost by 2. I said in the story I wrote late last night, technically this morning, that's Isaiah Wilkins like. If you remember Isaiah Wilkins, who's now on the staff of Tony Bennett. What Dunn was able to do was he was just able to stabilize things defensively. There's things that don't show up in the box score for a Tony Bennett defense in terms of being able to defend the pick and roll, being able to box out on rebounds. Jack Salt averaged, I think it was 3.3 rebounds a game in his career, started 100 and some games for Virginia. Didn't always get the rebound, but he made sure his guy didn't get the rebound, and another Virginia guy got the rebound. Those were things that Dunn was doing last night. He moved the ball on offense, set screens. I mean, these are all things that somebody's got to do. Not everybody on the floor can score 20 points, not even in the NBA. And so Dunn answered the call, and he got 16 minutes. They were on the second half, and I'm betting that Tony wishes he put him in the first half now. Third observation, something is not right with Armaan Franklin, and I'll talk about what I think that is based on what I'm hearing. I'd written a piece earlier in the week, and we even talked about it here on a YouTube video, that Isaac McNeely is stealing some minutes from Armaan Franklin of late. Franklin had that big breakout game against Baylor, 26 points, 7 of 12 shooting. I think he was 9 of 10 from the line in that game. Since that game, he's had a total. He scored a total of 43 points in the most recent 7 games, 6.1 points a game, shooting 30.8% from the field and from 3-point range. And last night it was 0 of 7, 0 of 3 from 3 in just 13 minutes. Played just 5 minutes in the second half, not because of foul trouble, just because of ineffectiveness. His plus minus, now I mentioned Ryan Dunn's plus minus was plus 13. Armand Franklin was minus 24 in his 13 minutes. That means Virginia, when he was on the floor, was outscored by 24 points. that's ghastly. It's suggested to me by someone who would know that something going on behind the scenes here could be a factor. Franklin was close to the 3 football players, Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Deshaun Perry, who were shot and killed back on November 13th. You don't want to make that an excuse. That, it's just a trope to use something like that as an excuse. We to some degree, all of us felt some pain from that, but he was close to those, at least a couple of those guys, from what I'm told. He was actually in the drama class a different time and taught by a different professor, but the same drama class that went on the trip. He was in the same number class, same curriculum, just a different professor, and so as a result, wasn't on the trip. But there could be some survivor guilt. I mean, that's totally speculating there, but the point being that it's being related to me that there are some issues there, and so we like to think of players for our favorite teams, whatever the case may be, as robots. They just go out there and play. They're people too, and anybody who's lost somebody close to them knows that it's hard to get back to work. It's hard to do some normal things. I mean, we're still just 5 weeks past this. This isn't, and it happened in the middle of basketball season. So nobody who's on the basketball team or the football team didn't play the rest of their games. Franklin, he had the big game. Now the Baylor game was the first game after, and so people might say, well, he had a big game, and it was the Friday after the shootings, and that could have been all emotion. And it's instant. It's kind of started to sink in. Don't want to speculate there, but it just telling you that what's being related to me is that there's something deeper going on there. And so, Franklin, just like the rest of us, when we lose people close to us, we just need some time. And if he comes back and plays basketball well, even better. But you just want the young man to get into a better frame of mind. So, fourth observation: why does Kie play? I got this text from my colleague Scott German last night. Time to sit KC. He texted it right as we were coming out of the under 8 timeout second half. At that moment, Kie was 1 of 8 from the floor, 3 points, 3 assists, 23 minutes. Ugly game. Lots of folks were having ugly games last night. I mentioned Franklin was having an ugly game. But it doesn't matter who else is struggling if Kie is struggling. And that's, for whatever reason, Kie is a flashpoint among Virginia fans. I mentioned, obviously, the game was a last-second loss for Virginia, 66-64. It's not a last-second loss if not for Kie Clark. He only made one more bucket, and it was a driving layup, and there was no competition. He got to the rim, and there was nobody within 10 feet of him when he made that layup. 26 seconds left to make it a 2-point game. But he had 10 points down the stretch. He had 8 and 9 from the free throw line. He attacked the basket, got fouled. He shot 3 free throws after a pump fake, got a defender in the air, and fouled him on a 3-point attempt. 8 of 9 from the line, 1 of 2 from the field. He got a steal 34 seconds ago that set up that layup in the backcourt in the full court press defense that Virginia rarely employs, only when they're down and late in the games like this. I mean, without Kie, he finished with 13 points, 2 of 10 shooting, 3 assists, 3 steals. But without Kie, that game does not come down to the last shot. So why does he play? Because he wills his team into games. If other guys had his heart and his want to, who are a lot bigger and a lot stronger, maybe more talented, those guys would all be in the NBA. Kie Clark is a 7-footer in a 5'9" man's body. Quibbling with Beaks, I call observation number 5. Watching the game, you now look at the stats. It didn't feel to me that Reese Beekman had a huge impact in the game, and then I looked at the stats. He almost had a triple-double. Maybe that says a lot about Beekman. He had 10 points on 5 of 9 shooting, so he's over 50% from the field. He only missed 1 3. He only shot 1 3 and he missed it. So it's not like he was, jacking up a bunch of wild shots. 9 rebounds, 9 assists. He did have 4 turnovers, including the one on the final play. Tony Bennett talked after the game about designing that final play, and he hoped that, hey, it's your best player. That's your guy. Either he creates a shot for himself, he pulls up for a short jumper, or he finds a guy for a three. And there wasn't a lot of time, but that's the guy whose hands the game should be in. But I have no problem with that. You win with your guy, you lose with your guy. You do what you do with your guy. But I do want to point out that if Kihei had turned the ball over on that play, the internet would have melted. if Kihei did it, if Reese does it, it's all right. It's your guy. But if Kihei did it, there'd be villagers pillaging right now through Charlottesville. Last observation, and this will lead me into my discussion about Tony Bennett. I wrote a column this afternoon after finally, late night last night, finally got to transcribe Tony Bennett's post-game presser from down in Miami. I say, which is the aberration? I'll ask a question here. Virginia's offense in the first 6 games, which included the wins over Baylor, Illinois, Michigan, averaged 1.164 points per possession. At that time, according to KenPom.com, 4th best in the nation. Last 4 games, narrow win over Florida State, which is not a very good team this year. JMU, which is projected to win its conference, the Sun Belt, but would be a 12 or 13 seed if it did so in the NCAA tournament. 5-point wins over both those. The loss to Houston. Hey, Houston's number 2 in the country this week, so you don't sneeze at that. And Virginia was in that game until the very end. And then Miami, 22 in the country. Again, you're on the road. First for ACC road game, you lose by 2 points. But Virginia's offense in those last 4, 1.000 points per possession. 1 point per possession. So and that would rank 223rd in the nation. So from 4th to 223 in the 2 different stretches of games. The first 6 games had us thinking that the ceiling in March, maybe even into April, was pretty high. The last 4 have you thinking that it's a first weekend exit. So which is it, is the question. Tony Bennett searching for answers on this too. Only a couple of reporters from the Virginia contingent made it down to Miami last night. One of them, Jeff White, works for UVA, for Virginia Athletics, so he gets to hitch a ride with the team playing there. But Mike Barber made it down as well. So I'd put Virginia's November up against anybody. Mentioned the wins over Baylor, Illinois, Michigan. Mentioned the great offense. I mean, everything was going so well. The December Virginia looks a lot like last year's Virginia that lost in the NIT in the 3rd round. Tony Bennett acknowledged, I should say, I hate to say admitted, because he acknowledged that we've got work to do. Quoting, got off to a good start. We shot the ball well so early in the year, and now when the shots are not going in, sometimes what that says is, okay, where are you strong and where do you need improvement? We got to keep attacking those areas. So Virginia's lost 2 in a row, and there's nothing to get upset about losing to 2 ranked teams, Houston at home, and then Miami on the road. Miami's not a tough place to play, but it's on the road. You got to get on a plane, you got to fly down there, etc. And they're a good team, and they're playing in their gym, and they're waking up in their beds. Part of this is obviously, I didn't mention this in the observations, but Reese Beekman, when I talked about, Reese, I mean, he got injured at the end of that Michigan game, where all the great stats kind of stop for now. Injured his ankle, then subsequently injured a hamstring. That's got it. They seem to be related injuries. He's not 100%. Tony admitted that as much last night. I will say admitted there because he's playing him, but he's just not 100%. Now again, he had 10 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists last night, and he's not playing 100%. He's doing that, but since his injury. That's when Virginia's offense has stagnated. The defense isn't going to be as good. I mentioned in a column Monday, I guess, the preview for the Miami game, that Beekman's defensive numbers have gone back to more average numbers because he's not 100%. You got an ankle injury, you got a hamstring injury, you're not able to, his athleticism is freakish, but even though he's able to play 30 minutes plus a game, it's just not the same. And so Bennett last night, I mean, he used 10 guys. He's narrowed the rotation down to 7 or 8 guys. He went with 10 last night. He went with Francisco Cafaro. I'm still getting used to saying that. for a few minutes. He went to Tane Murray, who hadn't played in a while, hadn't played any meaningful minutes this season until last night. His other appearances had been garbage time minutes. And you could tell, was watching on TV a few times that the cameras went to Bennett on the sidelines. He looked like you could tell he's trying to figure out some things about his team here. And some of it's the health of Beekman. And, health only gets better with time and the ability to get treated and get some rest and get some rehab in. And some of it's going to be, just kind of figuring out how to win games with the group and in terms of the different versions that they have to play with. What I would say about last night's result is that Virginia lost the game. Down 15, things are going terribly. Maybe Bennett should have brought Ryan Dunn in sooner in the first half. And seen if that could have given some shake there to the rotation and the lineup and the results. I thought that there were some really good changes, on the fly in the second half. 3 straight times down the court, they ran some pick and pop action between Isaac McNeely and Ben Vanderplas that freed Vanderplas up for 3 threes. Actually, for a 4th three, he missed the 4th three, but he made 3 straight and got fouled on one of them and made a 4-point play. So 10 points and 3 trips down the court after a long stretch where they hadn't scored hardly anything at all. There was late in the game. I think it was still maybe 3 minutes left to go in the game, and half the points that Virginia had in the second half were on those 3 trips. Miami adjusted, and then Virginia had to adjust, and finally down the stretch adjusted again nicely. Now, there were some nice in-game adjustments. They got 20 out of Vanderplas, who didn't score against Houston. Had an awful afternoon against Houston on Saturday. He had a big night last night. So there were some good things there. And just the fact that the team shot so poorly, defended poorly at times on the road against a top 25 team and lost by 2 and had a chance at the end to either tie or win. That says a lot about will, because it wasn't pretty. The wins over the Baylor and Illinois games were pretty. I thought the second half against Michigan on the road was pretty. Nothing about what Virginia did last night was pretty. It was gutty and gutsy and ugly, but they had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to tie or win. That says a lot about the want-to of this team. And Bennett acknowledged that too. He said, when you don't shoot well, I think we need to be a little more sound, a little scrappier in certain areas. And I don't think you can say anything but that they were scrappy last night. The thing is, they need to work to get quality shots. And, first half, they weren't getting quality shots. Second half, there was a long stretch where they were getting quality shots. They just weren't falling. That happens too. But no matter what, you can't have the breakdowns. And Tony said this, you can't give up some of the breakdowns we were having defensively. And that showed how we couldn't get stops in the first half. And that put us in that spot, the spot being they were down 10 at halftime, 15 early in the second half. If the shots aren't always going to fall, teams are going to go through team shooting slumps. It doesn't make sense, but it happens. You're not going to get good offense going. You're going to get into a bad rhythm. But if you can keep the other team out of getting into a rhythm, and Virginia didn't do that in the first half. If Virginia had played better defense in the first half, they won the game last night. So that's something to work on. And Tony even said that. So again, I'm quoting Tony now. Good start, but maybe starting now we've dipped a little bit, and we've got to find a new way to be as good as we can be, whatever that is. And I like that approach. And to me, it's how I live my life. Try every day to be a little better. And sometimes winning the play, isn't necessarily the biggest, the prettiest thing. I mean, sometimes you win the play by diving on the floor for a loose ball. Sometimes you win the play by hitting the 3. So no matter what, though, you've got to be willing to do what you need to do to win that play. And Virginia did enough of that late to get back in the game. They didn't do enough early to stay in the game. And as a result, Virginia lost by 2 points. So it's, as I'm finishing up recording this YouTube video, it's 3:07 p.m. on Wednesday. It's early signing day for football. And I've been monitoring there as of when I last looked about 15 minutes ago, whenever it was I started this particular video recording. Virginia was still waiting for one more signee. They had 18 of the 19 commits, hard commits they had, have already filed their paperwork, their national letters of intent. Cameron Robinson, the only one we're still waiting on. In fact, I'll click a button right here real quick and see, because we're waiting to file reporting until we get word on. It's still 18 as far as what I see here on 24/7 Sports. Robinson, 4-star linebacker recruit from Essex High School, and he was a hard commit back in July. But then last week, it was 2 weeks ago now, took a visit, official visit to Florida State. And so the fact that he hasn't filed his paperwork yet, it's 3:00, might be an indication. We'll have more on this later, but it might be an indication that he's going to wait until the February signing period to sign whatever paperwork he may sign. It could be today, so we'll have some more on that. There's still a couple hours before the close of business today, but we will have a report. At the least, we'll have a report on AugustaFreePress.com on Virginia's signing class. We may come back and do another quick video to kind of go over that as well. But I know that Roger Gonzalez, our beat writer for Virginia Tech Sports, will be working on Virginia Tech signing class today. I'll try to pull something together on JMU and Liberty and ODU as well. So we'll cover the whole state from the D1 perspective. And we'll have that for AugustaFreePress.com readers later today. If you have any questions for me, any comments, any criticisms, you just want to say, hey, what's up? Merry Christmas, whatever the case may be, email me at chris@AugustaFreePress.com.